guys? Sam here for Green Blood Boxing. Thanks very much for tuning into the channel and the video. Today I want to talk about James Tennyson and his fight that just got announced today against Josh O'Reilly, the unbeaten Josh O'Reilly from Canada, 16-0. It's an official eliminator for the WBA lightweight title, which is currently held, as we know, by Teofimo Lopez, who had obviously that spectacular win against Vasily Lomachenko about 3 or 4 weeks ago now for the unified titles at lightweight. So I want to get a little bit into that, what I think of it, and a little bit into the opponent. Don't know much about him, but as we get into it, as much as we know, and what this kind of means for James Tennyson. So I mean, let's start at just in general. The fight is an eliminator for the WBA world title. This is excellent for James Tennyson. This is what he really wants. I mean, for me personally, I liked the idea of the European title route. I thought that was a good route. You know, Francesco Patera from Belgium is the European champion. He has losses on his record. He's fought some guys we know like Sean Dodd, Ivan Mendy, who obviously had that good win, and also subsequent defeat to Luke Campbell. Obviously he has also fought Lewis Ritson and Edith Tetley, you know, these guys whose names would have been bandied about over the last few years, would have been linked to and fought against top British fighters. I thought that was a good route for Tennyson. A very winnable fight against a good fighter with a really good world ranking. But they've gone a different way, and let's face it, the way they've gone is they've got a really good opportunity to push for a higher ranking with the WBA, and to push into a position where they will eventually become mandatory for the WBA title by fighting an opponent who, from the looks of things, is fortunate to be in the position he's in. Josh O'Reilly, 16-0 from Canada, funny enough with Irish roots, has spent time in Ireland, Irish ancestry, really seems to pay homage to his Irish ancestry and his Irish connection. But, you know, looking at his record, haven't seen much of him. There isn't too much footage of him, especially not of late. But 16-0, not really against, by the looks of things, of his BoxRec record, the opposition hasn't really been up to too much. So, you know, in terms of the BoxRec rankings as well, he's 132nd in the world by BoxRec, where James Tennyson is very high up the list at number 20. Now, some people may say that James Tennyson is maybe a little too highly ranked, and perhaps Josh O'Reilly has the quality of someone who's higher than 132 on that ranking list, but it is quite a gap in rankings. Now, we can't just go off rankings, of course, and we haven't seen too much of Josh O'Reilly, but we do also know, and we've seen through the years, that, you know, guys are able to get rankings in governing bodies when they perhaps haven't done too much to deserve them, and they've kind of been shot up the organisation's ranking list by winning maybe an intercontinental belt or one of these ranking titles, and not really fighting too much opposition of a high quality, but nevertheless being able to shoot up the ranking list. We've seen it with multiple fighters. So, you know, by the looks of things, from the outset, like from the outside looking in, you would think that this is going to be a fairly handy night's work for James Tennyson. But then we don't know too much about Josh O'Reilly, so it would be a little bit unfair to completely to give him absolutely no shot. But one thing we do know is the quality that James Tennyson possesses, the level that he's boxed at super featherweight and obviously at lightweight, the consistent level he's boxed at lightweight since turning over. I mean, his last 3 fights have been against very good British level opposition, and to be honest, especially Atif Shafiq and Craig Evans being the best of them all, I would say, but Gavin Gwynn also being a very good, decent British level fighter. You know, this kind of opposition is, and obviously for the most part Tennyson has blown these guys away. He obviously had the most trouble against Craig Evans, but got the knockout in the end. So I mean, from what we know of James Tennyson, we would be thinking that he's faced way tougher opposition and has achieved more in his career. Fought for a world title, European champion at super featherweight, British champion at lightweight, and again with some good names on that record. So we would be thinking going into this fight that James Tennyson will probably do the business. But what I personally need to do, and what we need to do, is look a little bit at Josh O'Reilly if possible and see what he brings to the table. But it's going to be interesting anyway to see what he brings to the table. I mean, this is huge for James Tennyson, as I say. Puts him into that higher up the body with the WBA, higher up the rankings with the WBA, and gives him a chance to push for that title shot. The question is that the right route to push him right now? Is the route to give him someone like Josh O'Reilly, who, regardless of if we know much about him or not, he's not going to be anywhere close to the standard of the guys at the top of the lightweight division, because they're the killers in world boxing at the moment. I mean, you're talking about some of the best fighters pound for pound. So I mean, is that the route, to kind of creep up the rankings into a mandatory position by fighting guys who are probably of less quality than guys you've already beaten? For me, no. For me, that's not the way to go. With a guy like James Tennyson, I think he's got the power to hurt absolutely anybody, but perhaps he can still get better as a boxer in general, and perhaps he can still improve his skills. And maybe you're doing him an injustice by giving him guys who he's more than likely going to beat pretty handy. Obviously, from the promoter side of things, like Hearn and his management, perhaps Mark Dunlop is his manager, a really good guy. I don't know what Mark's opinion would be on it necessarily, but I would assume, say, Eddie Hearn's position would be, well, we're getting into a position to fight for a world title. It's not really about anything else. But for me, from the looking at the performance sport element of it, you're thinking, well, is it not better to improve and to fight tests? A real test, to be able. The thing is it's so that when you get to the chance, when you get to that level where you are actually competing for a world title, when you get to that fight, that you're actually ready. That's what I've said before about James Tennyson. I think that he's could land and hurt absolutely anyone, but skill wise, when you're talking about putting him in with the likes of Jorge Linares or any of these other top lightweights, Gervonta Davis, Teofimo Lopez, even Luke Campbell, Ryan Garcia, Lomachenko, Devin Haney, these guys are the cream of the crop when it comes to skill and technique and IQ, So for me, I would want to go that European route, because Francesco Patera is tried and tested and we know is a very, very high level operator. A win against him shows that you're pushing up the levels and you're legitimately getting better and being forced to learn. Whereas, okay, Josh O'Reilly could end up being very good and giving James Tennyson a massive test, or even beating him. We don't really know, because he's a bit of an unknown quantity at the moment. But based off rankings, based off records, based off who he's boxed, you'd have to back James Tennyson heavily here. And then, as I say, just to continue what I was saying, question whether that really brings anything to James Tennyson other than another win and perhaps another knockout. But is he learning as much from that as he could from another fight? And subsequently, does that set him up to have the best chance possible to actually win when he gets to the big fights? When he gets to the mandatory, the fight for the mandatory, the final eliminator or the world title itself. I'm not sure it does, but one thing I'm very pleased about is we get to see James Tennyson fight again. He's always entertaining. He always brings it. His style is entertaining no matter what. Even if the opponent is defensive or negative and wants to move back and go on the back foot, James Tennyson is very good at finding those guys, at getting to them eventually, and engaging them and making them engage with him and landing shots and making the fight entertaining. So I am looking forward to the fight. It's in 2 weeks. Slightly less than 2 weeks now, on the Billy Joe Saunders Martin Murray card, which is the 4th of December on Sky Sports. Obviously, Billy Joe Saunders defending his WBO super middleweight world title there, against Martin Murray, kind of seasoned vet. at this stage. Challenged multiple times for world title. That should be a decent fight in itself, where we would expect Billy Joe to come through, but a decent fight in itself. But yeah, looking forward to the fight with James Tennyson. Guys, thanks very much for watching the video. Make sure to like, share and subscribe and comment. Interact with the video, it helps me a lot and it makes it more interesting for me as well. If there's anything that you want me to talk about, please tell me. And yeah, thanks very much for tuning in again, and peace.